Hi everyone, it's Valor from Online Combat Battalion with another Arma 3 Eden editor tutorial for you. This one's in response to a question from Michael Dominy, who asks how to get AI to place IEDs. They won't do it normally, so you need to simulate them doing it. So you can actually do it for a mission, but there's a few things you need to do to make sure that happens. Firstly, so what I'm going to show you is this guy. I'm going to get him to patrol up to a road and place an IED. Not only will he move there, but he will go into an animation to show that he's actually doing something on the road. So let's get right into it. Firstly, you need a playable unit. Now I've got, obviously that's my playable unit, and I've placed down an AI enemy soldier. First thing we need to do with this AI is give him a variable name. So just double left click, and I've put in the variable name Bob. Okay, so Bob has a variable name. Now we want Bob to move. So we have given him, or I've given him, a move waypoint. And to create a move waypoint, you simply hit left shift and right click. That will create a waypoint. And that's how I've placed that one up there. Now I don't want this second one, so I'm just going to delete that. So he's got a move waypoint. Additionally, what I've done to make it look natural, like he's relaxed and not in a hurry, is I've opened up his actual unit by clicking on the marker at the top, and in there I have set him as behavior safe, speed mode limited. Okay, so he won't race around, he'll just calmly walk up to the road and do what he needs to do. So the first part of what we need to do with Bob is, let me see if this is the correct one, right. So you'll need a trigger. Now the trigger needs to be placed in the path of where Bob is moving. Okay, so we want this trigger to be activated when Bob walks into it. So we need to ensure that the move waypoint is past the trigger to make sure he'll walk through it. Now if we open up the trigger, and again you can, with triggers you can make them whatever size and shape you want. This one's just this size to ensure that Bob does actually walk through it. So let's open up the trigger, and the activation type we want is OP4 present because Bob is OP4. And in here we have a script, or a small piece of code. What this piece of code does is it will get Bob to go into an animation to show that he's kneeling down and doing something. This is actually a medical animation, so it will look like he's treating someone, but in our scenario he's actually placing an IED. The animation script or code for this will actually work in your multiplayer servers and your multiplayer missions, so it's not just a single player thing. I will post that code in a paste bin document that you can copy and paste, which will be in the description below. Okay, so firstly, before we go about the IED stuff, is I'll show you how the animation works when he gets into it. Okay, so here's Bob. He's walking up towards the area where the trigger is, and if we're observing him from a distance we'll think, well, that's an enemy guy. What is he doing? Calmly walking around on his own. He hits the trigger and he starts an animation like he's doing something, and if we're viewing this from a distance we know he's an enemy, he's stopped and he's playing with something on the road. The assumption has to be made that he's up to no good and he's probably placing a bomb on the road. So that's what the animation looks like. Next thing we need to have happen is we need a location for an IED to be spawned on a trigger. So if I have a look at the map view, you can see that I've got two markers here, and I'm just going to use the first one for this part. And to get, it's just an empty system marker. So I've gone to markers and all the way down the bottom to system and then empty and place that. Now I've given that the variable name of road 1. You can call it whatever you want, and you don't need to do anything other than give it a variable name. So that's the location that our IED is going to pop up in. To create the IED, we need another trigger, and here's one I prepared earlier. Again, you can make it whatever size or shape you want, provided that the AI variable name of Bob actually hits that trigger. So let's open up the trigger, and again we want to set the activation type as op4 present, and in the on activation section I have another piece of code here, and what this piece of code does is it will create an IED and place it on the marker road 1, which, if you remember, is the name of the empty system marker that I placed. Again, I will place this into the paste bin document, but it's just underscore ammo equals IED land big F in inverted commas, create vehicle, get marker pos road 1 in inverted commas, and ending with a semicolon. Now to get the name of whatever you want to use, in this case IED land big F, okay, you want to search for an IED in particular, go to objects, props, and just search IED, and here we've got a few different types. So I'm using a large IED dug in, so let me show you how to get the variable name for this. So I'm going to place the IED, right click, go down to log, and across to log classes to clipboard. So the variable name of this object is now copied to clipboard. So if I was to go into this trigger here and paste that, you'll see that we get IED land big underscore F, which is what I've got in my line of code. Okay, so just so I'm not blowing up things I don't need to blow up, I'll take that IED out. And now I'm going to place the trigger roughly where the other trigger is. Now when Bob comes up into that trigger, not only will the animation begin, but an IED will be created. Now on the trigger for the IED creation, which is this one here, I've set a delay of 3 seconds. I might just change that to 5 seconds. You can make it as long as you want, so Bob has to maybe work a little bit longer to place the IED. It's really up to you in the scenario that you're completing. So let's now see what happens when, with those two triggers present for the animation and the creation of the IED, let's see what happens. Okay, here comes Bob. Bob's a bad man. He wants to blow things up. So the animation will kick off any second, and 5 seconds later there's an IED that's just been created on the road. Now to get that to pop up exactly where Bob is very, very difficult. There's a lot of messing around. You can move the markers around a little bit if you like, but it is a bit of a pain in the neck. But for the purposes of a mission, you don't really need it exactly where the troop is, okay, or where the AI soldier is. Okay, so that's that part. Now let me show you something else. Now the IED, for the purposes of the mission scenario, looks great in the road, but if you walk over it, it's not going to explode. Perhaps if you drive over it, it will. So what I've done is I've got a third trigger, which I prepared earlier, And this one will create an anti-personnel mine. So if you walk over that, you will go bang. Now I'll open that up, and again we've got activation type op4 present, and in the on activation section another line of code. This one is mine equals create mine a pers mine get marker pos road 2, and again I'll put that into the pastebin document for you to copy, and you'll see that it's referencing get marker pos or get marker position road 2. Back in map view, so there's road 1 where our IED is going to be created, and here is road 2, and road 2 is where the anti-personnel mine will pop up or spawn once Bob reaches these trigger areas here. Okay, so I'll show you how that works. So here comes Bob up to his position. I've moved the IED marker position a little bit to be a bit closer to where he is. Maybe it'll work. Not really. So there's the IEDs being created on our road 1 marker position, and you'll also notice there is now an anti-personnel mine that has been spawned as well. So if we were to walk into this area, then that is going to destroy us. If we drive over the IED, that will destroy our vehicle. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll show you now what happens. Now, because we've used a trigger to create the animation for Bob after he's walked through the trigger, he will not actually react to us being there, which is a little disappointing. Okay, but I'll show you a way to do that that's a little bit different in a moment. So there's our anti-personnel mine. Here's the IED. Nothing will happen if I walk over the IED. However, if I walk over the anti-personnel mine, that's the result. Now, if you were going to have a position, and this is what I prefer to do normally, a position where these guys are already on the road and they react to us when they see us, what we need to do is take the contents of the trigger which animates Bob. Okay, so we take that out of there, we'll just copy that, and we open up the variable or the attributes of the variable name Bob. We paste this script in there, and instead of using the variable name Bob here, we just type in this, and we actually don't need to have Bob in there at all. So we also don't need the trigger that starts the animation for Bob. So what we can do is simply move Bob up here, take his move waypoint out because we don't need it. Now Bob's animation will start immediately, okay, because it's in the init field. Alright, but the difference with doing this is something I'll show you now. Okay, so we're patrolling through and we can already see that there's a bad man over there. It looks like he's placing stuff on the road. So he's already in place. The difference between putting that command into his init field is that he will start to react to us. Alright, his animation will stop and he'll actually start throwing grenades and fighting us, running away. I'll stand still, Bob. Oh, using the tree. Oh, I got him. So that's the difference between having it on a trigger with his variable name in the code, or simply just having an animation already in the init field of the AI unit. So if you use the trigger method with him walking into it, he won't react to us when he sees us. However, if he's just standing there and the code is in the initialization field for the unit, he will react to us and start fighting us and stop the animation. Another thing I'll show you quickly is another thing you can do with an IED to ensure that this thing blows up if you want it to blow up when your players are within a particular range of the IED. This will ensure that it goes up regardless. So this is just an IED. Again, I've just selected one out of the list, and I've given it, I'll double left click, given it a variable name of IED1, and I've put a little bit of code into the initialization field, and again I'll post that into the paste bin document for you to copy and paste if you wish. So this code here would go into initialization field of an IED object, which has the variable of IED1. Here I have a trigger, and I have this set to blue for present, condition call this, and in activation call IED1 set damage 1. So what this does, when blue 4 is present in this trigger, this IED will detonate, it will blow up. Okay, so this isn't exactly what Michael has asked for in the video, but I'll just show you that as well, because a lot of people have asked previously about getting an object to blow up when a trigger is activated. So as soon as I walk into this trigger as blue 4, that IED will detonate, and I'll show you that. Okay, so we've got Bob down there doing his thing, and we've got an IED on the road ahead of us, and we're going to walk into the trigger, and when we do, that IED will go bang. That's just another little trick that you can use if you want something to explode when a trigger is activated. And you can use the same little trigger and code for other things as well. So for example, if your scenario involves maybe a roadside IED or VBIED, vehicle borne IED, you can have a car explode. Simple again is the trigger for car set damage 1, blue 4 present, and variable name of car. Now all this stuff in here is a little bit of extra stuff that you don't really need, but I'll put that into the paste bin anyway, and you'll watch that when I go through this, the same thing has happened with the IED will happen with the car. It will explode. Okay, so in our scenario, we're walking up the road. We've been told in the Intel briefing to watch out for vehicle-borne IEDs. There you go, it's exploded. Alright, just another thing you can use for your scenarios. And one more thing you can do with IEDs in vehicles, just to make your scenarios a little bit more immersive if you're in an environment where this sort of thing happens, is exactly the same trigger system and exactly the same commands. We've got now a civilian driver in the car. We still have the variable name of car and this extra stuff here. And because this guy's a civilian, I've just changed this trigger from blue 4 present to civilian present and car set damage 1. And I've given the car a move waypoint. So now the car will drive up the road towards us as we're patrolling down. And this is what that looks like, which is a really cool feature to add to your missions if you're in an environment where that sort of thing happens. So the civilian car is now driving up the road. We're just patrolling down, and when he reaches that trigger, the vehicle explodes. So everyone, that's how you get AI to place an IED. Thank you, Michael Domini, for the question. I hope that's answered it for you. If you're not sure about anything, just ask in the comments below. Additionally, you can visit our Discord server. The link is in the description, and we can give you a hand there. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up and a sub if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.